Hey everybody, and welcome to Cinema Gulp. This is Ben.
This is John.
And today we're going to be doing a quick shot review of Doctor Strange.
You're a man looking at the world through a keyhole. You've spent your life trying to widen it.
Doctor Strange is the latest film added to the freshman team of the Marvel superhero juggernaut. And it's definitely Marvel at its strangest. Benedict Cumberbatch takes on the somewhat unknown character and excels beyond expectations, breathing some humanity, humor, and arrogance that we so love about our Marvel superheroes.
So John, what did you think of Doctor Strange?
It fits the mold of the typical Marvel movies, so I liked it enough as those films are. But I wasn't a huge fan of this movie. It was entertaining, fine way to pass the time, but I didn't really come out of this with a whole lot to say about it.
I'm gonna raise the stakes a little bit. I thought it was a total blast. I agree with you as we get more into this review that there's problems, there's things they could have tinkered with a little bit, and I do think that the directing choice, choosing a horror director and then sort of choosing not to go with any horror elements might have been kind of a mistake to make it a little different. These Marvel movies are really starting to become that Raiders of the Lost Ark giant bowling ball that's chasing Indiana Jones through the tunnel, where they're just racking up more and more things and squishing more and more things. They're all just kind of turning into the same thing. Oh my God, Ant-Man's coming out. That's going to be so different than Iron Man.
Nope.
And it kind of wasn't. And Doctor Strange has got to be different. It's kind of the same. It's kind of more of the same with Marvel. 2016 approaching 2017 with this Marvel record that they have, that's kind of a good thing. You don't want to fuck with it at this point. Like, it's the formula that's working. Keep it. And because of that, I think Doctor Strange was awesome.
Well, and I feel like they have the formula, which we all kind of love. And so as they introduce new characters, that's where they can make changes and play with their formula. But I don't feel like this one did enough to play with the formula.
Yeah.
It felt very standard to me.
That's
you made
true.
a great point there about the directorial choice on this one coming from mainly horror films. There was a couple scenes in the film where I thought they could have played with that and used some horror elements in the film. It does have this mystical story to be told, and there's some times there where they could have played with some horror elements too, and they certainly didn't. So I think the people behind the Marvel movies know what they want to put out there for their audience, and they do it every time over and over. And that's a good thing, because we really enjoy almost every Marvel movie. I just wasn't really that excited about this particular character, in my opinion. I think Benedict Cumberbatch does a good job. From what I've seen of images of the character, he looks the part perfectly. He's an excellent actor, so it's still a good performance. It has the charisma of kind of the Iron Man character initially that you want to see. He keeps you entertained because he's a charismatic character, but I just wasn't that sold on the rest of the story. Like, why? There's perfectly good reasons of why he's going to go down this mystical rabbit hole that he goes down, but I got a little lost going down the mystical rabbit hole.
It happens pretty quick. Some of the mythos and stuff explained happens in the blink of an eye, and you gotta wonder if there's some stuff on the cutting room floor. Because I agree with you, I was kind of intimidated going into this. I was almost like, is this going to be one of those movies that I'm just not understanding when they're talking about all these distant realms and all these different realities happening at the exact same time and mirror realms? But you can tell they almost, for lack of a better term, dumbed it down. And in doing so, it all happens so fast. You're like, okay, so he becomes Doctor Strange, and then are there people all over the world? Oh yes, there is. We'll just say that in one sentence. A lot of this, I agree with you. A lot of stuff happens really fast where you're like, well, what exactly is the mythology of everything, and how does everything work, and who started it, and where did it come from? And this is an origin story of Strange. Maybe in further Doctor Strange movies, we'll find out more about the ancient ones and how they're chosen, where they come from, and things like that. I think it might have been a lot to squeeze in. You and I both were talking about how there's a lot of similarities between Tilda Swinton's character and Lawrence Fishburne's Morpheus from The Matrix in more ways than one, when it's like, welcome to the Forbidden Realm. And
the setup of the film moves at a quick pace, and there was definitely a couple scenes that felt kind of contrived to get us to the next point, to move the plot along. But that happens in a lot of, not just Marvel movies,
Yes.
comic book movies in general.
Yeah.
We need to set up this character so that he can start fighting evil or
Right.
using his powers, and we want to get to that quickly. So they move it along at a quick pace.
And it does. The reason that this one stands out is very obviously seeing the Marvel stamp is because he's such a different character, yet it still kind of hits the same beats. Whereas normally you'd think, okay, he's like a mystical sorcerer. This is not going to be a typical origin story where he's arrogant prick and then something happens.
He's not going to wear a cape and fly around and save the city. Oh,
Yeah.
that's exactly what he does. In this
It
film.
does, but there are things that make this movie really special, and I think Benedict Cumberbatch killed it. I thought he was great. He surprised me with some of his extra humor. It wasn't so dry. He actually, you touched on it. He has a little bit of Starkisms in there, but you can tell he's not as smart as Stark. He's smart in his thing, but so he doesn't talk exactly like some of those, like, oh, you only have one name, like Rihanna. It's like those were hitting a little bit, but they were just tiny little goofs that weren't meant to get huge chuckles,
Mm-hmm.
But I still thought it worked, and I was engaged in him as a character. I mean, they didn't give us much to work with. A lot of suggestive material that he's some arrogant prick, but you don't really see that much of that, though, because it all just, like you said, it all just happens so quickly. But getting back to like the Marvel stamp, it's like this is where you have Kevin Feige overseeing everything, where it's like, okay, you have Scott Derrickson, who does horror movies, come in probably with lots of ideas, Edgar Wright style ideas, and then like, fuck you, dude, no way. Like, this movie needs to be fun and funny and exciting and colorful. Okay, fine, whatever. I mean, the only thing I have to my credit is Sinister, so I'll do whatever the hell you want.
Exactly. Cha-ching, thanks for the paycheck.
Dude, get in the Marvel family, man. Who gives a
Exactly.
shit about your ideas?
And this film does have some great little setups for future films, not just a sequel to Doctor Strange, but other films. And those had me very excited about where we're going to go with some of the Marvel films. Small things, but they're enough to really whet my appetite for the next 2 or 3 films that are coming from Marvel.
Me too. And this movie was a really good I think this was the best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to completely stand on its own that came after, the initial first Iron Man or whatever. Because it clearly exists in that reality. There's a couple of subtle tiny hits that we won't spoil for you. But for the most part, this is a completely isolated film that stands... I mean, we talked about tone and spirit and mood and humor and stuff being part of the Marvel mold, but it doesn't need to shoehorn in stuff like Ant-Man did. Let's shoot a whole new extra scene. It doesn't need to do that. It's its own movie.
Maybe because they've gotten through that middle portion, phase 2, where there was so much setup for the future. And I know they've got phase 4, 5, and 6 that they're going to plan. But maybe because there weren't so many plans set, this one didn't have to shoehorn as many things in. But yeah, that is a really good point. This one wasn't hampered by all the extra scenes that have nothing to do with this film to set up future films.
But what I wanted to get to about the end was it didn't need to be a battle. It didn't need to be like kung fu or swords or knives. I love that little thing that they throw at you at the end. And that brings me to some of the cast, which let's discuss real quick. I've already said Benedict Cumberbatch, I think, is the embodiment of Doctor Strange. Early talks of Ethan Hawke, I was really excited. That also could have fit, but I think that they got the perfect man for this job.
Yeah, I think between the two and even the Joaquin Phoenix recommendation at one point, I agree.
I just can't see that.
No, now that having seen the film, I think that this was the right choice.
What about Bill Murray? He might have done it.
So other cast members we have is Chiwetel Ejiofor, and then another actor we really like, Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, I haven't heard enough, so I say it wrong.
Mad Mick.
Yeah,
Mad Mikkelsen.
Love that guy. If you
Really
haven't
wasted
seen-
in this movie.
Wasted in the movie to some degree.
It's another one bites the dust of Marvel villains.
Loki, you will never be topped at this point.
Yeah, it's just, I don't get it. Like, he looks cool. They gave him ashtray eyes and everything, and he just fucking doesn't talk in the movie. It's such a waste. When is he gonna learn? Don't they read any of that press that people want a good villain from a Marvel film?
Their focus is always on their heroes, which is kind of a good thing. I mean, the backlash that films like the early Batman films and some other films along the way have gotten is that
true.
as they move into sequels, they focus too much on the villains and they forget about their hero completely. Marvel's never done that.
And then Rachel McAdams, who, when I heard she was cast, and then I even saw the first early teaser trailer for this, I was like, we're getting another Natalie Portman
Jane, what?
Where were you?
from Thor, who is a great actress, doesn't know what she's doing in this movie, and doesn't belong. And I was totally wrong. She's not in it very much, which is a good thing. She kind of pops in and out as like a reoccurring character, but she has great chemistry with Benedict Cumberbatch, and she's just such a good actress in my opinion. She's just joyful. There's something about her that's joyful. You know?
Yeah, I think she's a fine actress. Thought she was fine in this film. Other cast members would be Tilda Swinton. I guess there's some controversy about her being a whitewashing of the character. The film tries to make a quick one line to explain who her character is and why she's not an actual Asian elderly man like the original character was. I thought she was fine. Like, I mean, she was playing,
she's great,
like you said, kind of a Morpheus character, and she did a fine job at that.
Yeah, she's a fine actress, but the whole time I was looking at her in that movie, I was just seeing the old man from Poltergeist 2 the whole time. Let me in. So Benedict Wong had an excellent performance. A lot of levity to his character, really funny. If you guys don't know who he is, he's been in a ton of things, but just thought we should mention him too.
He was in The Martian last year. He had a pretty big role there. One particular fight scene that we kind of noticed that Benedict Cumberbatch is not the best.
He's not the most physical of people.
So it's okay that this particular
he can do this.
Superhero uses mystical magical powers, so it works for this character. But I don't expect to see him get into a hand-to-hand fight with Iron Man or Captain America or any of these other...
Well, he would just fuck them up immediately. He'd just send them into a different realm and then go to sleep. But my favorite thing about the film, the scene stealer for me, was the cape.
The cape, okay.
Best part of the movie. The cape had a personality.
It reminded me of the flying rug from Aladdin. You know,
a little bit, yeah.
It had a personality. It had its character. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure the rug would if it had the opportunity.
I thought that they made a character out of the cape, and it was fantastic and cool. And then when it came, when it go around his back, it was cool. It was so cool. We haven't even really talked about how fucking awesome the visuals in this movie
so I was going
are.
to say, kind of the standout for me was the visuals, the special effects. If you've seen these trailers, you might know that it kind of has a little bit of an Inception look to some of these effects, but it worked for me. I found it really interesting. Visually, it seemed believable. It's definitely this wild kaleidoscope effect that you're seeing, but it was unique and visually kind of dizzying. Like,
yeah,
it was,
but not in a bad way.
No, not in a bad way. Like in an enjoyable way, where you're like you're looking through one of those old school kaleidoscopes, but you've got superheroes fighting in the foreground. It was very cool, I thought. So for audience chuggability, I may score this lower than other people agree with. I'm going to say it's thirst quenching.
Okay, that's totally fair. I had a blast with this movie from beginning to end. I'm going to go ahead and give this movie a top shelf recommendation because I think people are going to love this movie. Don't be intimidated by it. It is one of those films where you're like, who the fuck is this character? I mean, yeah, everybody loves, Benedict Cumshaft or whatever. He's always good and stuff, but he plays a different guy in this than you'd think.
And for the gulp gauge, I would give this a 5.
For the gulp gauge for myself, I'm going to give it a 7. Okay, that's our review of Doctor Strange.
Well, go out and check out the film. Give us some comments below. Let us know what's your favorite Marvel movie? What are you excited about with the upcoming Marvel movies? And check us out on Facebook, Twitter, at Cinema Gulp.
And for Cinema Gulp, this is Ben.
And this is John.
We drink your cinema.
I drink it up!
Office walker, he's office walker.